We're just in time to watch Uper's favorite player, Zach Short, make a clutch play at second base. I mean, as in he fumbled it and had a chance to double play, but
he came up short.
Welcome to the quickie version of the Motor City Metrics podcast here at TigersMLReport.com. I'm Rogelio Castillo, alongside me Chris Brown and Uper. John is out this evening, so hopefully John will probably be back on Thursday as the Tigers start a home series of the White Sox to play the White Sox for the first time. Right now they're playing Kansas City 5-5 in the sixth or the bottom of the fifth right now. And the Royals, Salvador Perez loves Tigers pitching. It's what it is. Like, it's just, there was one stretch where Michael Lorenz was cruising along, and then all of a sudden Kansas City just does that thing. They just come alive against the Tigers for some strange reason when you least expect it to happen. So
that one Pasquantino hit was a bomb. That was, compared in the first inning, the Tigers scored 3 runs, and they didn't hit a single ball that would break a pane of glass the whole inning. But they scratched 3 runs out of it. That was kind of nice.
Yeah, and that's how the Tigers have been. It's just that there's not except for that first game against the Nationals where they were just really powering the ball, or just hitting the crap out of the ball. It's been those kind of scrappy, I don't say scrappy, but kind of, that's not hard contact. I mean, look at Javier Lopez's hits. His singles, one was, I think, 46 miles an hour, the one was 64, something like that. So, excuse me. But I want plenty to get to as we do our quick Monday episode and really talk about the trade that happened today as Jonathan Davis goes to the Marlins in exchange for Brady Allen, who was the 5th round draft pick by the Marlins in 2021 on the University of South Carolina. As everybody mentioned pretty regularly on Twitter, he grew up in Lakeland, so he's familiar with the Tigers. He's a left-handed bat that can play all 3 positions, shows some pretty good speed. And I believe Dan Hasty just tweeted out that a couple weeks ago he went ham against Grand Rapids. So, Alex, good to see you on YouTube. How you doing tonight? But it was a Jonathan Davis. What was it, Chris? He essentially was going to be. They had to make a mind up about him anyway, right?
I don't know for sure, but most of the time, these kind of veterans who sign deals have an opt-out on May 1st or June 1st or July 1st, where they can, if they haven't been called up to the big leagues, they can go away for nothing. They're free. That's what the kind of same thing happened with Trace Thompson last year, where he didn't get to the big league, so they traded him. And it's kind of a nothing deal, right? I don't think Brady Allen's going to be a prospect going forward, but it helps with some minor league depth. We thought maybe we were playing around in our heads about this may result in some more moves down the line, a little bit of player movement. One thing I speculated was maybe Grant Witherspoon moves up to Toledo, and then one of the guys who's hitting in West Michigan, either Justice Bigby or Chris Myers, maybe moves up to Erie, but maybe not. We'll see what happens. But it was kind of an odd bit of news that I wasn't expecting. I was honestly like, hey, I wonder if they brought up Ibanez, and he's cooled off. I think he's 0 for 23 on an 0 for 23 stretch, which is not great. He's not striking out a ton. It's just like, he's not making the contact in the right spots. But I thought maybe they'd give Davis a go too, just because, to see what they have. But if they chose the other route. And somebody in the Discord also brought up, like, do you think we might see this with, like, Matt Whistler or maybe some of the other veterans down there? And I think it's entirely possible.
Yeah, especially because when we were talking about this on the minor league podcast earlier was they have so far Toledo's been seeing some of the new guys that they've signed from Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
There's Sam Clay, so it makes sense. At some point they want to either give the bullpen some help or get up another outfielder or two, because Witherspoon hit over 500 or just right at 500 in Erie this week. And then as far as just in terms of other players down in Erie that could easily go up to Toledo, I can see that happening. But I don't know, Uper. It didn't really. Again, Chris said it was for nothing move, but what'd you think of it?
Well, I mean, like if it's true that Davis was going to go or opt out, they got something for him. I mean, and just looking at the resume, the guy's a 5th round pick, which is not bad. He's still young. That's always good. He's semi-productive. He's not a guy hitting $180. So, that's the kind of move makes sense to at least try. And, if he becomes Cleet Thomas for a year or two, great. And if he never gets above AA, that's okay too. There's really nothing lost.
Nice hit, by the way. Nice job there by Will Vest to get out of the inning there. 9-pitch battle with Bobby Witt Jr. got him to fly out to right. And so the game remains tied heading into the 6th inning. But yeah, it's one of the things where it was immediately I was thinking, you know what? For once, Tigers may have are getting stuff in return. I mean, this is something we're not used to, a precedent we're not used to seeing. Like usually it's trade for cash.
Yeah.
So in this case, they got something. I mean, it's again, what we'll know, we won't know until we get out there this weekend, and we're going to be out there Friday to watch the high A debut of Troy Melton, who's been down in Lakeland, and so that's going to be a good, interesting start to that. Gives West Michigan, we were talking about this earlier, has had some really good pitching lately, and hopefully that kind of rubs off on Erie, which it's a long story on that. But so the Tigers this weekend had a 3-game series to the Nationals, and they lost the series. It looked like Friday was a different team, but the Jeimer Candelario World Tour, Revenge Tour, and that was the thing that happened. And he said no ill feelings or anything, and that the Nationals have their own little baseball celebration thing, so it was weird seeing him with the flag. And was it a wig or something? I can't remember what it was, but
yeah, your powdered wig.
By the way, Tyler wants to know: are you drinking a PBR, Uber?
No, sadly, it's a Diet Coke. I'm off beer. I haven't had a beer in a long time. Trying to drop some weight, having some mild success, and no beer has been part of it.
Let's say PBR now. Thanks to hipsters, PBR prices have gone up. Fun fact.
PBR has been kind of a hipster beer for
a while.
It's got to be 15, 20 years now, it seems like.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I was a kid, when we were just starting our drinking campaigns, when I was a teenager, we'd make fun of PBR and like Milwaukee's Best and Schlitz and all this stuff. Well, anything. But we were like, back then, we thought that like Labatt Blue was the height of beer.
Yes.
Or Molson Canadian or something like that. But I mean, the craft beer stuff was just starting to happen. And even then it was like, Sam Adams was kind of like the snooty beer. So
for us, it was growing up, everybody, my dad loved Labatt Blue. I mean, he grew up as originally Budweiser. He went to Labatt Blue and never turned back. But then, when I was with my friends starting out in our early 20s or whatever, it was Bud Ice, Bud Ice or Molson Ice
beer.
Yeah,
ice
beer.
Huge thing in the 90s, right? Yeah.
Yeah, big thing, and it was always for whatever reason. And then we one time we played beer pong with Steel Reserve. One of my friends had to go in a hospital. That was not a good idea. But I never Bud Light, Budweiser, or just any of the light beers. I was just like, I just never got into it. I was kind of I'd be a beer snob, but now I got more into gin and tonics, like a nice little whiskey, if you will. So I'm getting sophisticated with my drinking these days. When I do drink, I don't really drink very often. So, but when I do, it's like just something like give me a gin and tonic, a Moscow Mule. So anyway, I don't go into drinking talk, but no, but like
Candelario, Tigers this weekend.
That's yeah. I mean, so get back to Candelario. I mean, he has a WAR of 1.6, so I mean, it's not like he's a total bum, if you will. And it was good to see. Oh, Yingling, yeah, that's a good one right there. Sergio in a YouTube chat said Yingling, and it's finally coming to Michigan this year, finally, I believe. And so that was a Pennsylvania beer that my brother would get because his sister-in-law was out that way. But he's got OPS plus of 118. He's putting up decent numbers. So
good. Yeah, the other night, just before the Tiger series, I saw him get a homer and a double. They really slowed down and showed his swing from the side. He looked like he was in tremendous balance. I mean, it was just a gorgeous swing that everything was just working. I was someone back in the day here, back last winter, I thought they might bring him back. I know it was $7 million, but they had really no payroll. They could have afforded it. I was mildly surprised that they let him go and didn't bring anybody in to replace him. But so I'm happy for him. You know, he led the AL in doubles a couple years ago. Yes, he had a bad year last year, but I just thought it was a little soon to give up on somebody at his age who had shown that they could be a competitive player when they have a lack of competitive players.
Yeah, I mean, Chris, I've stuck up for Candelario since the beginning of time, since the beginning of this podcast, or since. Oh, there you go. Nice job there by Matt Verlin. Gets a single up the middle after he hit a foul ball. It looked like it was going to be a home run. I always like Candelario. I still always will, and I always got some crap for defending him, which I didn't understand why, because he was productive. I mean, yes, he looked lost in Detroit, and I think a change of scenery was good for him, and so it was good to see that. But a couple of takeaways from the series. First and foremost, Joey Wentz. They were talking about today that he's not going to go get down Toledo as much as people want that to happen. They're going to work on it. But Chris, I think the biggest problem we're seeing again with Joey Wentz is something we saw last year in between right before he started getting good again. And in terms of keeping the ball down, everything's been elevated. Before, when he was doing really good, he was able to locate low in the zone, and it just seems like that swing and miss stuff is not there.
Yeah, he was catching a lot of the plate all game. It was an interesting game because when he gave up 10 hits, and I think 8 of them were not hit very hard. There's something about, I heard Dan Dickerson talking about it. I'm kind of bummed that John isn't here, because I was going to ask him if he knows what a Baltimore chop is, because they were talking about how hard the infield dirt is there in front of home plate in Washington, and how there were a couple hits where we're just ground balls right into the dirt in front of home plate, and they scooted through the infield like an old AstroTurf field or something like that. So I think the Nats groundskeepers are leaning into the Nats hitters' tendencies, which is they put the ball in play more than any other team. They just don't tend to hit with a lot of power. But yeah, Wentz was clearly not the best version of himself, and we haven't seen that much this year. We've seen it once or twice, and when he's good, he's good. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. The cutter hasn't been seemingly as sharp for him this year. The changeup is still okay, but everything else is just a little bit off. So, but yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason he's not going to Toledo is they don't really have any options. We talked about it on the minor league show. Reese Olson just had his first good start, but I wouldn't expect Reese Olson to come up and do much of anything. Unfortunately, I don't think he's quite ready for big league hitters. And the other options are not existent. Honestly, like there aren't other starters on the 40-man roster right now.
Oof.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Especially Garrett Hill, too. You're thinking about Garrett Hill, if you're wondering how he's doing. I mean, he's throwing the ball with velocity, but he's still having a hard time with command. And so that's not an option. I mean, Tarek Skubal, you're hoping that in the next few weeks you get some good news that he'll be coming back on the trail. There's been no word about Matt Manning, just outside of the fact that he's still going to be on IL. So then you ask yourself, what about Erie? Well, Brent Hurler has been the most consistent pitcher, but I don't think he's major league ready at all. Wilmer Flores is, we talked about this, could has taken a step back a little bit. Same thing with Ty Madden. And Alex asked a really good question on YouTube. Do I think that Engler could get a spot started? And I said this, I thought possibly he could, because I said this in the beginning of the year that based off his arsenal, 4 pitches, he could do that. I think he could be maybe a opener, if you will, but I think they would have to stretch him out first. But that's about it. It's just Olsen. You're still not gonna, like as Chris mentioned, you're not gonna be. It's not gonna be for sure thing whether Olsen's gonna be continue with that. And I still think he has a reliever risk to him.
He would probably be an opener. Come in for an inning, get him out of there.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. No, I mean, I think they could definitely do like an Englert Alexander piggyback start if they wanted to, but is that going to be any better than Joey Wentz? I don't know. Englert has had his moments this year for sure, and what he's doing is impressive for what he is. Kid who barely played in Double-A, but he's also had some problems with home runs and innings piling up on him. But yeah, so Tigers got out of the inning, I think, right?
No, Jackie Bradley Jr. made another pretty good catch here. Be check on the replay. Nope, you get nothing and like it.
Yeah, it's they just kind of got to stick it out until Spencer Turnbull, I think, recovers from his mysterious neck ailment that probably won't have him on the IL for more than another couple days. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with Turnbull. I'm suspicious that he'll even throw pitches in Toledo. He might get one spot start down there, but so got to have him come back and hopefully be a little bit stronger. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're relying on Fido and Wentz right now, which is not a great feeling. Fido has been fine, but you do feel like the wheels are going to fall off there at one point or another. And with Wentz, you just don't know what you're going to get. So it's not a great place to be with the rotation right now.
Even the Braves are right now doing one bullpen start every time through their order right now until they figure something out. If a team like the Braves can do it, a team that has expectations, I don't see how the Tigers couldn't at least try that as a short-term patch while they work on some other solution. Because who knows how long it'll be taking for Turnbull to get ready. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's and the White Sox I think did a bullpen start today too. It's just tough because they just started. This is the fourth of 19 consecutive games in a row, right?
Yeah, that's true.
In a row, 19 consecutive games. We don't need the in a row in there. So it's tough to do a bullpen start because you don't want to tax your bullpen one day and then have to go to them again early the next game. It's a tough juggling act. We've talked about it before, but it really feels like that Toledo is just kind of a holding pen for potential relief arms. Even the starters they're using down there are not going deep into games. So we may see some of the bullpen arms in Toledo come up over the next 2 weeks just because. But should we sign Michael Pineda? This Jacob 24. Where's Michael Pineda? I haven't even followed what he's doing these days.
Oh, that's a good question.
Brian Garcia.
Isn't Garcia in Houston? Yeah, isn't he in Houston?
I don't know where Brian Garcia ended up.
I'm pretty sure he ended up in Houston. Let me double check that. I'm checking that right now. Brian Garcia he's in Houston right now at the Astros down in AAA. So let's see here.
There you go.
Yeah,
But I will say this. What we mentioned about Jonathan Davis and about those minor league opt-outs. Other teams have those guys too. So there may be somebody in AAA for another organization who's just kind of waiting for a chance to start, and the Tigers may pounce on that. So that wouldn't shock me. We saw him grab Seth Elledge the other day, another bullpen arm. They have a handful of random guys on the bullpen arms on the 40-man now that people are like, wait, what?
Yeah.
They're just kind of picking guys up left and right, and so it wouldn't shock me at all if we see another starter. We could, Englert, Alexander, Holton. You could cobble together a start or two there with those three guys, but I think for now they're just going to try to go with the guys who have shown at least the ability to give you a quality start every now and then, and just hope that they're on that night.
I do like Jacob's suggestion of Dallas Keuchel, but I don't know how much Keuchel has left in the can. But by the way, Brian Garcia in 26 innings of work has an ERA of 8.20. He's allowed 38 hits, 24 earned runs, and he's back to that walking thing. 21 walks in 26 innings pitched.
He needs to come home to Chris Pettis.
For Chris, down in Sugarland. Carlos Martinez was not a bad idea either, but he's also didn't he have that kind of I
thought he was injured again.
Yeah, he had that surgery that didn't the Archer had, I believe.
The thoracic outlet.
Yeah, I think he had thoracic outlet surgery. That's a nice catch there by
Madu. You're not gonna find a good starter just randomly waiting out there in late May. They're a bunch of names, but they're free agents for a reason. Like you said, Atlanta is shoving AJ Smith-Shover through their system right now. He's in AAA now. He's a fifth rounder or even later. I don't remember when they took him. The same draft as Jackson Jobe. He's 3 months younger than Jackson Jobe, and he's in AAA because they don't really have any other options right now. Everybody's hurt. So
the cool part with him is he is looking so good. he's got a chance to get to the majors and then be the best player from his high school team, which included Bobby Witt Jr.
There you go. Yeah. Well, we had the fun thing today with Brady Singer. I was like, oh, it's a bummer that Carpenter's not playing because he and Kerry Carpenter were high school teammates. But yeah, it's kind of funny when you have two big leaguers on one high school team.
Yes.
As far as Michael Fulkinets, say his name.
Oh, Fultonevich.
Fulkinets. I know he was losing velocity last time. He was down to like 86, so I don't think that would be an idea. So Tyler had a good question here on YouTube. Will the Manning, Skubal, Mize rotation be decent when they come back, or are we reaching the end of the viability? I know they're young, but it seems like they've been hurt more than played. I have an answer for that. I think you might see it in maybe a couple of a version of it that you may see for like a month or two, but I think it's going to be similar to what you've seen with some of those Mets teams where I don't know. I just don't see it happening. I mean, I'm trying not to be negative about it, but the reason, in my opinion, is that Skubal is going to be coming back, Manning coming back, but the key question is Mize. So I think Mize could have Skubal and Mize have that kind of perhaps that long-term ability, but I don't know. I just haven't seen enough of Manning to stick around and have this what is it called? A three-headed dragon? Whatever. Three-headed dragon that should be the Tigers rotation.
Is that a Chimera?
Chimera. Thank you. Yes, that is.
Is that what that is, Chimera?
I think it is. I think it is. Yeah.
Cerberus, the three-headed hellhound.
Yeah.
Why am I getting like feedback? I keep hearing myself in kind of like a staticky echo. No?
No, you're all right.
No, you're good.
No. All right, sorry. Hopefully,
Hydra. Thank you. Thank
Hydra.
you. Hydra.
What is a Chimera? What the hell's a Chimera?
I don't know. Well, I'm not familiar with my Greek history. You know what? We have the internet right here too. Chimera. It's a fire-breathing female monster with a lion's head, a goat's body, and a serpent's tail.
Yeah, because
how did you not know that?
They had nothing else to do except for drugs. Lotus eaters. No, I think there are reasons to be optimistic about all three of the Tigers. Former, they were all top 25 prospects. We saw flashes from all of them. Mize legitimately had a pretty solid first season, at least by like Baseball Reference War, one of the better first seasons for a first overall pick ever. Honestly, he wasn't great by like the secret Fangraph stats. He didn't strike out a ton of guys, but there was something there. And then the thing you hold out is that I think you just talked about it before. It's like, how long was he pitching broken, basically?
Yes.
Yeah, his elbow ligament was like an old rubber band that had no elasticity left. And who knows? Maybe he can come back. You never count on guys coming back better, but maybe he can come back better from Tommy John surgery. And Skubal was really a pretty darn good pitcher before he got hurt. Even when he got hurt, it was like it didn't seem like that big of a deal. He was still pitching pretty well. So you can hope there. And then Manning was showing some progress last year before the freak injury this year. So, I mean, the odds are that not all three of them are going to come back and be awesome. But I think you're going to get some degrees of helpfulness from those three guys.
I think if two of them come back and are positive forces in their rotation in the next 2 years, I think that's a pretty good outcome. But yeah, that's exactly where I was going with Mize. One of the biggest worries I always had when they drafted him was the year before his big final year at Auburn, he was shut down with some forearm issues. So you knew something was brewing. It was going to be a miracle if they could get through 8 or 10 years with I call him Larry Mize. Oh my gosh, Casey Mize, healthy, right? So I do think that there's a chance that when he gets back and he's full strength, unless he's one of those small minority of Tommy John guys who it doesn't work for them, assuming it was done well and he comes back, I'm excited to see Casey Mize again. I want to see what happens there. And I agree with you, Chris, on the other two as well.
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, nothing. I was just saying, all right.
No, I just to me, I'm skeptical because I see enough case studies, or not case studies, but enough examples to go, okay, well, maybe one of these guys will work out, not all three. I mean, I can think of, I can go back throughout three times with the Mets, or the White Sox too, with Jack McDowell, Alex Hernandez. Something's bound to happen.
Yep.
So you don't ever see the Tigers. I mean, look, Jack Morris and Dan Petrie, that combo farm system wise was a rarity. It really was. Like you really didn't see that very often. I mean, it was. I mean, the Twins to a certain extent, Frank Viola and what was it, Kevin Tapani. I mean, that was not the greatest combo, but they won a World Series with those guys. So
Uper, by the way, Kevin Tapani.
Yep. Oh, in Central Michigan grad too, right?
Yeah, Escanaba, Michigan.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can even look to the Tigers' opponent tonight, the Royals. Once upon a time, they had what Baseball America, I think, was calling the best farm system ever, or the most talent-laden farm system, and it was Eric Hosmer and Mike Moustakas. In the pitchers was Mike Montgomery, Danny Duffy,
John Lamb.
Yeah.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Chris Dwyer, and almost none of those guys. Duffy had some good years, but almost none of the pitchers actually helped. It was the pitchers farther down the system, like Yordano Ventura, who ended up being pretty good. And it was like Lorenzo Cain and Salvador Perez and Kelvin Herrera and all these other guys who helped them win. So, yeah, I mean, it's very rare for pitching prospects to come up and be good for a long time together. It's you don't see it very often. And it's getting increasingly rare for like top 100 pitching prospects to be very good at all, honestly. Like, it seems like the top ones are guys who just dominate in the minors. But the guys who actually come up and are good in the majors are guys that just start out outside of the top 100 or at the back end of the top 100 and just zoom right into the majors without anybody noticing. Your Bryce Millers and Spencer Striders of the world.
Yep.
Yeah, you want that. You would hopefully at some point hope with the Royals too. They used that farm capital. Brandon Finnegan traded him to Cincinnati for, I think it was the
Cueto.
Yeah, for the Cueto trade. And then we saw Finnegan 2 years later pitching for Louisville, just looking ugh.
Yeah, he'll forever be a fun answer to a trivia question, but he could pitch in the College World Series and the actual World Series in the same season, same year. But yeah, I don't think he'll ever. Yeah, he wasn't terribly good either. So yeah, it's kind of just a crapshoot with pitching prospects.
Yeah. So yeah, Scope is leading off right now, and I'm watching multitasking, which is why I'm looking down. I got
the Royals brought in Aroldis Chapman, who's been basically his old self this year. He had one hiccup not that long ago, but he's still throwing like 102, 103. So
I'm surprised that, I mean, you know what? I didn't understand that signing. I really didn't, because I was thinking to myself, are you gonna use them for trade bait to get some? If you're gonna use it for trade bait, okay, then
that's
I
absolutely
understand
what they're doing.
Yeah.
They considered him. It's kind of like a Trevor Rosenthal sort of thing, right? This is a guy that they were getting for relatively cheap, and we've talked many times about how relievers will get you an outsized return if they're good.
And he's pitching well enough. If he continues on this path, he might net them a top 100 prospect.
I'm just surprised
the back half of it, but still.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm surprised no team went after him. I mean, Kansas City was the only one that gave him an offer. I mean, I know he had a checkered past in New York a little bit, but he was still throwing heat. And so I didn't get it. I mean, I thought a team like, maybe a team like necessarily Atlanta or Boston signed up Jansen, but I don't know.
I thought Tampa might, because they don't usually care what they do. Nobody watches the games anyway.
Yeah,
they don't have to get popular players.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I don't know. I don't think a lot of contenders were gonna. He was, he had some issues last year. It wasn't just like it was like he just abandoned the team, and it's like, do you want to bring that guy into your locker room? So it did feel like it was going to have to be a Kansas City or a Washington or an Oakland or somebody who's going to give him a chance. And good for the Royals. I think they're going to end up getting some decent return out of it.
Yeah, Oakland wasn't going to sign him because it was too. Well, he's relatively inexpensive. But he's too expensive for us. And you certainly wish that Oakland would probably take a chance on their bullpen's horrendous. Scope has given him a battle. It was 101 and came in there by Chapman. So far it's
on the ninth pitch coming up. So
yeah.
Here you go. Get off the bench and face 100 consistently. But yeah, I don't know. You know that the Nats series as a whole, just to get back to that, was pretty. It was a bummer, right? You have to beat teams like that, and it just did not go. I thought for a while that they were going to come back on Sunday. They were really. It looked like it was going to get out of hand early, but then they really. They were fighting back. It's just they couldn't get that big hit.
That's where that team-wide lack of, they're 14th in home runs in the American League, and that's the quintessential game where you needed one big swing to turn the whole thing around, and they don't have the one big swing guy. They need 2 walks, an error, and a single to get a run.
Yeah, basically that is the kind of the main thing missing with this team. They have guys at times. There are times when Eric Haas is that guy. We've seen it in each of the last 2 years where he'll go super hot for like 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
Kerry Carpenter, we're kind of hoping he could be that guy. Unfortunately, he's injured. But yeah, other than that, Javi Baez certainly hasn't been the consistent power guy. Torkelson will show flashes, but he's not been the power threat that everyone hoped. And same with Riley Green. So it's just kind of just got to hope somebody gets a hold of one every now and then.
Well, apparently Scope grounded out the first time. I'm behind. But I think OBK makes a good point. Pitching has been carrying this team to a certain extent because, obviously when they get good spots, when they get starters that do their thing, if the bullpen does what it's supposed to do, and that
Riley Green's a good hitter.
Yeah. Well, did Riley do something?
In play, no out is all I know right now.
Okay.
But sorry.
Yeah. So, by the way, Jonathan Scope and Tyler pointed this out. He was 0 for 8, or now he's 0 for 8 against Chapman. Coming into that bat, 0 for 7. I don't understand the matchup idea. Maybe he thought he was due. I don't know.
Gave him a good battle. It seems like the only thing the Tigers care about this year is the platoon advantage in every possible situation. They pinch hit for Maton early in the game with
4th inning.
Yeah, but they didn't pinch it for Badu, and then he struck out. But it seems like I don't remember it ever being such a big deal to teams, but it seems like every team is like this now. They're just.
Well, here's what I didn't understand in that particular spot. It's the 4th inning. You got 2 outs and a man on first. I don't know if that was any kind of leverage to pinch hit there when the next time through the lineup, probably going to have a righty out of the bullpen. And sure enough, Ibanez came up. I think were there 2 men on base the next time he came up, but it was against a righty and he grounded out. So I don't know. I thought that was a little bit of a questionable move by Hinch. It's so hard to get too worked up about managerial moves, but
yeah, I think it's just one of those things where they do it 90% of the time, unless it's somebody like Riley Green who can hit lefties consistently. Just because whatever in the aggregate, it's a very small advantage overall. But yeah, each individual decision always is a little bit curious. Like you said, it's probably going to be only one at bat. But I was saying earlier tonight, the Twins. They started Alex Kirilloff at leadoff today against the Giants. He got 1 at bat. The Giants threw an opener, and they brought in Sean Manaea, the lefty, and they pinch hit for Kirilloff in the 3rd inning. It's like, well, all right. It's everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's weird to see that too because it's just I don't want to say playoff like strategy, but it seems like a late inning strategy going on early. So.
Yeah.
But for Chapman, by the way, Javier Baez is 1 for 6 lifetime against Chapman. He's up to bat right now. As that single it was funny. I saw the end of the bat of Riley Green. And it looked like, it was just looked like a shank of some sort.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say there probably aren't many players with a great career record against Aroldis Chapman. I think there's gonna be a lot of ugly numbers there. He has been one of the best closers for about a dozen years. And the hardest throwing pitcher of all time. There's something there, but I don't know. Maybe Torkelson can catch one and yank it over the wall. That would be nice to see. He hit the ball hard. He walked twice. He's still not tearing the cover off the ball, but he does seem to be in a better place now, where he's at least productive, which is better than he was, and it's certainly helpful.
More than what Baez just did just now. Oh, Lord, that was. But again, Torkelson has been hitting better as of late. Has been seeing the better ball as late. He has 3 walks tonight, so he's doing. I mean, in that regard, last year I think I gave him a lot of grief because he took too many pitches, but he's been more aggressive than it counts, and that's all you can ask for. And he wasn't going to swing at crap because Singer wasn't pitching to him pretty well. Was not pitching to him,
right?
So. All right. You know what? Tyler says in chat, I'll give money if Torque drives in a run. I'll give $20 if he homers. All right. Super chat is on. So
here we go.
Yeah, here we go. But anyway, so a couple of other things too I wanted to get to before we get out of here, because this is our shorter episode of the week, as the Tigers will come home to take on the White Sox, like I mentioned earlier. And I'm actually looking forward to that series because the White Sox are kind of a series of flux, and this is a chance for the Tigers, depending on how this series goes, they can possibly get to 500, the quest for 500, and then they have the Rangers in after that, and so it's not going to be it's going to get back to a little bit of a bumpier ride, a little bit, if you will. So I don't think that, Texas is always a team that for whatever reason plays well at Comerica Park, so it'll be interesting to see that. The other thing I want to ask you guys about was Nick Maton over the weekend. He went yard, but there's some people still want him to go down. Or what'd you guys think of his performance over the weekend?
I think that most guys who get enough at bats will run into a couple balls now and then. He is what he is. He's an extremely flawed player. It'd be better if he was a right hand. If he was batting right-handed and could hit lefties, maybe that'd be great. But he's facing right-handers, and he's getting crushed by breaking stuff, and not a lot of fun to watch.
Chapman just went upstairs, and Jacob pointed out 103 miles an hour, and that was like, you could just I barely could see the ball, but it was like El Cubano, man.
So it was about a half a foot above the zone, but when it's that fast, the thing is, Veerling is having a good game tonight. He seems to do this every now and then. He has a monster game that doesn't do a whole lot for a while. But there's not a huge difference between Nick Maton and Matt Veerling and like Willie Castro and Jeimer Candelario, really. With Willie Castro, he was a versatile guy who had some tools, who could do just about anything, but wouldn't walk, basically, right? And Maton's the same guy, but he will walk but won't hit. And it's like, okay, which is better, a guy who can't hit or a guy who doesn't walk? I don't know. So yeah, I don't know what to do with Nick Maton. Honestly, I don't think sending him to the minors is going to do him any good. He'll probably go to Toledo and destroy pitching down there. He might see more breaking balls down there and pick him up, but I don't think that's the sort of thing that you get better at by facing minor league breaking balls. You need to consistently get attacked by these big leaguers, and if he's going to sink or swim up here, it was nice to see him contribute, but he crushed that ball, that home run. But he does feel like a guy who's they're going to have to kind of pick and choose their spots to play him more, and that includes they pinch hit for him today because I guess you can't hit lefties and you can't hit breaking balls, and you're kind of in a tough spot.
Yeah, and this is where, again, the call him up about Justin Henry Malloy comes up and everything. And so, again, whether or not Tigers will do that anytime soon, I don't think so. I think I don't know. Again, until you mentioned this earlier, Chris, is it Super 2 status? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, the Super 2 status is a way to manipulate certain time beyond just keeping a guy down to get an extra year of control. It's a way to get an extra year of control and get only 3 years of arbitration instead of 4, which is weaselly. But if you've gone this far, you might as well go for it. But again, the thing with Malloy, and we've talked about this, is basically over the last month, he hasn't been all that great. Been okay. He's hitting like 240 with a little bit of power and still walking. But Yeah, I mean, I don't think Malloy, as currently constructed, if he comes up, is going to be an upgrade over Nick Maton. Honestly, he might hit the ball a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
but you're losing some defensive versatility and probably not any more power or walks than Maton gives you. So it's I don't know. People see the highlights, they see him putting up good numbers, and we talked about in the other show. Basically, the only difference between what he did in April and what he did was he doing in May is he had a 450 BABIP in April, and it's 320 in May, and so the WRC plus is down like 40 points. So he may have been hitting the ball a lot harder earlier, which can contribute to a high BABIP, but I think it's I don't think he's the savior that people may think he is.
All right, I was gonna say Uper. I thought you were gonna have do something like, oh yeah, he is the second coming.
No, I don't think so. He hits the ball on the ground a little bit too much for me. But again, I only saw a few games. He did hit a bomb too, though. I mean, I think that he has a future. I think he could be, a starting left fielder, or maybe a third baseman. Although a couple of his arm actions didn't thrill me.
Like that, you're talking about that, like kind of like the way threw almost like sidearm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he had a couple times he hesitated to throw. Like he had to think about it a little too much, and that's stuff you can overcome. Who knows? Do I think he has a big league future? Yeah, because who do they have any better? I mean, they're going to give him a chance. He's going to have a shot. I just don't think there's any big rush to do it. And I don't think they would see, a surge in the standings because Justin Henry Malloy is plugged into the 7-hole in the lineup.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I think that in Johnson Family Farm is dead on. This is a team that just needs a power bat. I've been saying that. I've been saying that for the last 3 off seasons. Just one. I mean, they've tried and failed to get some bats like that. I mean, you talk about was it Nomar? Not Nomar. Mazzara.
No.
There was the first baseman from Baltimore, Ronaldo Nunez. They tried.
Cron?
Yeah, CJ Cron, but they, for whatever reason, decided not to re-sign him. So yeah, so
I think because his knee was shredded, but he's been doing fine in Colorado. Yeah, I don't know. They need power from somewhere. It's tough. You got to hope that it's Torque or Green, right? But
yeah, I mean, and before somebody asked, no, not Cole Keith. He's not ready yet. I mean, if he continues at this pace, Dixon. Oh, Brandon Dixon. Don't Jacob.
He's been playing with the Padres, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's playing somewhere.
I see some names on that Padres team. Jeez, the bottom of that order is rough.
But then they have a kid named Ethan Salas, who's 17 years old, who has been
Is
catching.
he 17 yet?
Oh no, I'm sorry. He's gonna be turning 17 soon.
Yeah,
he's turning 17, and he's catching big league pitchers, and he had a double off of big league pitcher. He is
George Kirby, maybe, or
George Kirby, yeah,
Gilbert, yeah.
The kid looks good, but so correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Al Avila try to get Malloy for Shane Green? Todd asks. I don't know. Never heard.
I don't think so. I think Malloy was still in college when they traded Shane Green. I might be wrong there. Malloy was a 2021 kid, wasn't he? She 20.
Yeah, I thought it was 2021. But so we did get some questions, Chris, I believe, correct?
Yeah, we got a handful. We got Steve Butts gave us a nice lengthy one. He said that now that this is becoming Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson's team, even when the Tigers underperform like they did this weekend, it's still more enjoyable to watch them. I think that's generally true.
Yep.
He said which remaining pieces need to solidify for them to remain more competitive, especially with runners in scoring position. And he said a healthy return from Kerry Carpenter, a prolonged Eric Haas hot streak, Colt Keith's inevitable promotion.
Definitely yes to the first two. That's the shame of Carpenter's injury. This was his opportunity. They certainly would have had him in the lineup against every right-handed pitcher. They need the power that he can provide. This would have been his chance to solidify himself as a member of the lineup. But, that's how things go. He got hurt on defense. Hopefully he gets back. That would be huge. But yeah, I agree with Steve. That's becoming Torkelson and Green's team. And that's what needed to happen. We talked about that. I said about this ad nauseum throughout the winter. The biggest part of this year is those two guys, what they do, what steps they take. And we're seeing some good things now. I would love to see Torkelson clear a few more fences. He's becoming a little bit more low average John Olerud to me a little bit there. I'm wondering if he's just,
wait a minute. You're talking about John Olerud, Toronto days or like Seattle?
Because the guy who hit the ball in the gap all the time. He didn't hit a lot of home runs.
True.
If he becomes John Olerud, I'm happy. That guy was.
I was gonna say, I'm like, he almost hit 400. He almost hit 400 the entire season. So.
That was not a direct comp by any stretch. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I was just talking about the gap power.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
There's that small subsection of first baseman who could hit a little bit, but didn't have a ton of power. Your Mark Grace's, James Loney's, Eric Hosmer, these guys who occasionally will run into power, but really more hitters and except, as you said, a low average version of that, which is not ideal.
Well, hopefully that average will climb slowly. But that's what the team needs to be. It needs to be those two guys taking control of this lineup and being the pillars, right? That's what has to happen if this whole organization is going anywhere in the next couple of years. Those two guys have to be a part of the solution. But Colt Keith, could he hit his way to Detroit this year? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know what we're going to see what Harris's modus operandi is. We'll see.
I wouldn't mind. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I wouldn't mind even seeing Parker Meadows become part of that equation. Parker Meadows or Akil Baddoo that round out the outfield a little bit, because Baddoo does things a little differently than everybody else, but Parker Meadows does have a combination of power, and that was a sick pitch by Barlow. Oof. Damn. Yeah, that's one of those guys at least.
Well, and that's the flip side of the Carpenter going down, which is unfortunate. But Akil Baddoo has played pretty well, about as well as we can hope for. The power hasn't quite been there, but he's walking a ton. He had a bases loaded walk earlier today, put the ball in play a lot, doing a little bit of base running. So he's taken that opportunity and run with it. But yeah, you feel like Carpenter would have continued to hit for some power. He seems like he's just built like that. So would have helped to have him for sure. I think. Yeah, I mean that's where you need that to take the next step, where you get to the point where Carpenter is showing, and it felt like that for a little bit, where he was showing enough power that you have to play him against lefties too, just because. And then unfortunately he got hurt. So I think that's the big step. And then Steve, the second part of Steve's question, he said, and I think we already talked about this, but he said, with the continued absence of Matt Manning, Bo Brisky, and Tarek Skubal, along with faltering Joey Wentz, should the Tigers consider stretching out Tyler Alexander and using him as an opener? Sure.
Yeah,
try a little bit of everything.
Yeah, it's a I don't want to say tried it's a tried formula. Is it true sometimes? Sometimes. Depends on how you can get his if he can get his cutter located inside. If he can get his cutter located on the inside, then the Tigers are in business. But if he can't, makes for everything just hanging out there, and that's when he gets hammered.
Yeah. But all right, so we have two questions from Deadly Ninja Beast. He said, "Are Alex Lang and Jason Foley going to be involved in trade discussions? And what kind of return would they bring?"
Look, I think they're not going to trade those guys unless they are completely out of it. I think they're going to wait if even if they trade them. But look, if they trade those guys and not get a big return on it, it'd just be disappointing, because then you look at, okay, they're going to use a myriad of bullpen arms that they've just signed that will not probably end up working out. I just don't see them trading them unless it's completely unnecessary. Or teams like, hey, listen, we're going to give you a top 10 prospect for this. I mean, they'd be blown away. I mean, that's to me. I mean, I think their asking price for those two are going to be high. So is our team's going to be paying for it? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation. I don't think the Tigers are going to go around looking to trade either of those two guys. They are legitimately two of the better relievers in the American League, and they're really complementary relievers too. The way they now Alex Lang is the one with the filthy stuff who can go and get you 2-3 strikeouts in an inning. And Jason Foley is. You want to beat Jason Foley, you have to string together 3 hits basically. He's not giving up extra base hits for the most part, not giving up home runs. Really valuable to have a guy like that. They're kind of rare when they work out, but like it was like Zach Britton, in his prime as a lefty. Maybe not quite as good as Zach Britton, but it's a super valuable back in the arm. Now, would they trade one of them? Maybe, but it really does depend. Like you said, Roger, it depends on if somebody comes to them with a deal and says, here's a potential everyday regular for your reliever. I think you have to think about it because we talked about it a bunch. Good relievers on a bad team are kind of superfluous. It's nice to think that you have a bullpen set up for the next couple of years, but you never know with relievers. They're so up and down. You don't know. So you take the value if you can. Like you said, Roger, if somebody wants to give you, I think somebody was pointing out, Curtis Mead from the Rays. Mm-hmm. Sure, you take that.
Yeah.
I think you brought that up in the show the other day. I think you take something like that, but I don't think those guys are going to get traded this year.
And Todd asked, name one thing Scott Harris has gotten right so far. Zach McKinstry, the Justin Henry Malloy trade.
Lorenzen's kind of working out.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, he had a rough outing today. It wasn't like this was a number 5 starter outing today, right? He had a couple two bad innings, otherwise gave you almost 6 innings. That's kind of what you get from a number 5 starter. It's hard to point to any one move that's just an absolute monster win. But I mean, McKinstry, it's hard to complain about McKinstry. You traded a double-A reliever for a guy who's been your most consistent hitter at the big league level this year. I think that's kind of a win. There hasn't been, I don't think there's been any overt failures either, right? Like Vierling and Maton haven't been, world beaters, but Gregory Soto wasn't going to really do much for you this year. I mean, it's nice to have more bullpen depth, I guess, but again, relievers only have a pretty short shelf life. So I don't know. It's still early. Banez was okay for a little bit. He was helping them. He's kind of come back to earth. But that is actually, our next question after this one kind of deals sort of like that. But I wanted to, if we got finished there with the Lang and Foley thing, but Deadly Ninja also asked, and this is a draft question. He said, if Dylan Cruz and Wyatt Langford are gone, would the Tigers take Paul Skeens over the high school bats? The pitching depth looks as woeful as the lineup right now. This is very tough, and I think it's a very, very realistic option. I don't know where you guys are with that.
Well, yeah, I think it could happen. I mean, it seems like from people who really follow the draft. I mean, they're getting all kinds of wires crossed on who's going where. So I don't think it's a done deal that Cruz and Skeen go 1-2. I'll tell you what, you watch Paul Skeen's pitch. That guy looks good. I mean, that's some real deal stuff. He doesn't, and he has a pretty good health background too, and he doesn't have that arm problem in his past that I'm aware of. Do you guys know that?
I thought maybe he had something in high school, but I'm not entirely sure. So
okay.
Yeah, I have to look into that. I don't. Maybe not. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where if Al Avila were still running things, I think you could just mark that one right down.
Oh yeah,
Skeens is there. They're taking Paul Skeens.
Yeah, because he went to LSU. Simply, not because of his ability, just because he went to LSU.
Well, I mean, yeah, Avila was very good friends with the old LSU coach. He's not there anymore, Palmineri, but he could probably get some really good inside info on what's going on in LSU. But also, they just love taking those big, hard-throwing SEC guys. It's kind of an old trope, but it's something that they've always done.
Yeah.
I don't have a feel for what Scott Harris front office is going to do just yet. It really sounds like people are in love with Walker Jenkins too as a hitter. They think he's on par with Langford and Cruz. So if you were to ask me right now, I would think if Cruz and Langford went 1-2, I think the Tigers probably go Jenkins at 3. But it is hard, as you said, that the pitching depth in the system isn't great, and the pitching in this draft is not great. The gap between Skeens and the rest of the arms is pretty vast. I mean, Chase Dollander came into the year with a lot of hype, and he's had an average year. But one thing we've seen over the last 10 years, right, is that teams are able to find really good arms all throughout the draft. Something they like, something they can tweak, and you can get a frontline starter in the 5th round or 6th round or something like that. So I don't know. I think you got to trust your development and go with the hitter and develop the pitcher.
I agree, 100% agree with that, Chris. I think that if you look at the way they've developed pitching over the last 5 years, well, yeah, 4 or 5 years tops, there has been a change in how they've been able to develop. I mean, even with the struggles right now with what's going on in Erie with Wilmer Flores and everything, there's still at least something they can build off of. I mean, Reese Olson comes to mind. His stuff's gotten better. There's other examples. Kyler Montero, though he got beat up his last start, he's a guy who they've been developing a little bit. So I think the Tigers should go all offense the first couple of picks, because I maybe a certain extent you can't get can you sign a veteran pitcher? Sure. But you can also then draft, maybe go get 2 pitchers in the 9th, 10th round and say, okay, you know what? There's nothing to work there. Well, maybe one can be a quick path to the majors. But I'm looking at his stuff now. I mean, that's great. Again, he's got some good tailing action on his fastball, but this is a draft of a lifetime here. We're talking. I'm not trying to exaggerate that, but it just seems that there's a lot of offensive talent in this draft, and you can't really pass that up for a guy that, if the arm went down, you never hear the end of it. It would be another situation where, like, for example, like Marcel Meyer is destroying high A pitching right now, and Jackson Jobe is sitting somewhere resting up. And if that happened here with this gentleman right here, it would lose development. I just think that they should just go with the offensive player.
Do you hope in your fondest hopes that Langford drops to them, or would you be good with the high school guy?
I hope Langford drops to him personally. That's what I would like.
Yeah, I'd prefer Langford, but everything I've heard about Jenkins is really impressive too. So I'd be fine with either one. I do think I would prefer Langford. I don't know. It's so tough with pitchers, because it's like, are we drafting scared? Are we scared because we think this guy, or is that just proper risk assessment? Are we scared that people are going to complain if we draft this pitcher and he gets hurt, or is it just not smart to take a pitcher that high? I think it's probably not smart to take a pitcher that high, even if he looks like a once in a decade arm, just because things break.
Personally, I think it's good risk assessment, honestly.
Yeah.
Just because, again, look what Chris Fetter's done with what they've had, and look at the pitching as an organization as a whole. It's gotten way better. And if it was a situation where perhaps under old regime, then maybe. But then look at Casey Mize. It's just like I said. For once, the Tigers have an opportunity with all the offense. This is an offensive heavy draft, and I think with Mark Connor in charge and everything, I think they're going to play up to the strength a little bit and just go with what they know.
And we haven't even spoken about Max Clark, and the last few things I've heard about Max Clark are very positive. So I think he's having a pretty good spring. So his name, I don't know how many times the Tigers have been in there to watch him, but maybe his name will come into the mix too. And I also been hearing a lot about Kyle Teal out of Virginia.
Catcher.
Yeah, and he's whether he stays at catcher or not, he sounds like he has the bat to play at a lot of places. But he's a top-notch catcher too. I don't know if they would dip that far, unless they really wanted to sign him for less money and do some other things creatively afterwards.
Yeah, Teal to me is the smartest guy in the room move. The one where, we know better. I don't know. It's tough. It's a bad draft for catching. So if you really feel like you need if the catcher of the future and you think he's it, maybe you can make that move. But if you do that, you're leaving one pretty impressive bat or possibly pitcher available. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how to play out. Top 5 never goes the way we think it is. And we didn't think Kumar Rocker was going 3rd last year.
Speaking of which, by the way, he's on the IL. He's going to have surgery, I believe.
Tommy John surgery. Yep. Yeah. So he sits. I remember back in the day, Jim Callis said that the only thing he could dig up was that he's heard before the draft was that Rocker had both shoulder and elbow injuries, and sure enough, he's had a shoulder surgery and now he's had an elbow surgery. It's tough. Been rough for those Vanderbilt arms. Jack Leiter hasn't exactly been tearing it up in pro ball either. So
no, he's not. It's like a 4.50 ERA.
The Rice curse. It's the curse of Rice.
But now it's Vandy.
I know, but I just I think of I think of like University of Rice, when anytime you pitched a pitcher, they had all these great, amazing stats in college. And was it year you told me, Chris, what year they drafted? Like Rice had like 4 or 5 pitchers.
I want to say 3 of the top 5 people taken. It was Phil Humber, Jeff Neiman, and I'm missing somebody else. I don't know if
the Tigers took Kenny Baugh out of there.
Yeah, Kenny Baugh. Yeah,
Kenny Baugh and Matt Anderson.
Yeah,
when he from Rice. And Gabe Myers. But the last question we had was from Brian Morrissey, and this is kind of
it's charming, man.
Oh, good question. Rest in peace to their who is it? The Smiths bassist?
Yeah, bassist just passed away. Yeah.
He said, if you could undo one move Scott Harris has made, what move would that be? Whether that be resigning one of the non-tenders or undoing a trade. Why did you choose to resign Willie Castro? He says, I think he's saying, yes, they should have kept Willie Castro. But you guys have one move that you would undo?
Oh, I mean, what's in the running, right? I mean, is signing Matt Boyd in the running? Maybe.
Yeah, that was the one I would pick.
Not signing Candelario's in the running, and maybe the Vierling Maton trade, right?
Yeah, there haven't been any giant moves, really.
I think I would love to know what the second best offer they were floating around for Soto was. Yeah. That would be fascinating to hear, because this is a wonderful question, by the way, because it gives us we have a couple months of hindsight, and to see how things have worked out. But Candy looked good the other day. Again, if he was plugged into Detroit's lineup, are they a win better right now? Maybe. But I think for me, it's Boyd. I would not have gone down that road again. I would have found something else to take a chance on.
Yeah, I really can't argue that either. As much as I'm gonna try to be. I'm not gonna be different to be different, if you will. But well, honestly, I mean, if I really think about it, outside of the Boyd move, maybe not. I wouldn't. No, that's it. I was trying to think of something else, like maybe something obscure, like you know what? Maybe not so many damn catchers. There you go. I mean, if I'm gonna be, they signed Paparski, they signed Knapp, they signed all these catchers, and they didn't do enough to at least sign another outfielder, like a veteran outfielder would have been nice outside of Jonathan Davis. I thought a power bat. That's really about it. A guy that can just see what he could do.
Yeah, for me, that's a good one. For me, it was Boyd, and not necessarily. It was so quick, and ended up being kind of a market deal, basically compared to what everybody else got. But there were other arms out there that I thought were interesting that would give you potentially a little bit more upside. Like even Lorenzen has slightly more upside than Matthew Boyd, I think.
Agreed.
And yeah, you could have. It's hard to complain about it right now when the starting pitching is so thin. Like, okay, I'm glad they got a starter, but like you said, Roger, they could have spent that $10 million in an outfielder or another reliever or a different starter. Like Michael Wacha got the weirdest deal. It was 4 years and $24 million. You couldn't. Did he really want that, a 4-year, $6 million deal instead of 1 year and $10 million? I don't know. Would Rich Hill have been better than Matthew Boyd? I don't know. It's kind of a push. I just think there were some other options there. And, I don't know, but again, I don't think it's like it hasn't backfired in some hilariously bad way just yet. It's just, I fail to see the vision there really.
And the only reason I don't pick the Soto trade is I question how big the market was for him. If there was a second, let's say there was this mystery second team out there that was poking around with him, would they have gotten something substantially better than Vierling and Maton? And I'm probably low man on Vierling and Maton. I don't see anything more than bench players there as if this team ever competes. But I don't know if there is a first division starting ball player out there ready, easily grabbed for Gregory Soto.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
again the lack of power. I think that's the reason why that stands out to me is because there's nights like this, for example, the 5-5 game. You're relying on your bullpen again to bail you out when the offense hasn't done anything since the third inning since they scored. It's been kind of stagnant, and they in terms of runs with scoring runners in scoring position, Tigers have been very inconsistent all year with that. So
Yeah, some power bats would be nice. Adam Duvall was out there, wasn't he, forever, and some other guys. But I don't know. The Maton Beerling thing, it made sense to me. It still does. Just again, I don't care about relievers that much. I really trade them when you got them if you don't need them, and you got a couple guys with some. They have some tools. You don't know if it's all going to come together. Probably won't. But you got two players for basically 10 years of control if you want. You got a lot of player control, and if one of them breaks right, it's a great deal. There's a calculated risk there, but also not really that much of a risk because Soto, I don't think, was part of their long-term plans. What are they? 2-3 years left. Plenty of he's young and good, but it just like you said, we've got Lang, we've got Foley out there now pitching just as well, if not better than Soto did. So yeah, it's tough. We'll see. We've got some big deals coming up in the next year, right? He's gonna have to make some big trades. The Eduardo Rodriguez situation will be really interesting to see what happens there. Interesting to see what they do in free agency with Miguel Cabrera and Jonathan Scope off the books. Are they going to sign anybody to a big deal? Are they going to sign a bunch of small deals? What are they going to do? Are they going to run a raised level payroll?
How good do you think Eduardo Rodriguez is going to be over the next 6 weeks? Because the only reason I ask that is look at his numbers right now and look at his career numbers. Man, he's pitching well. Can he continue that towards the deadline? How big a regression is he due for? It's almost like, the cliff is coming. I hope it's not. But.
Yeah, he had the one rough year in Boston, and we chalked it up to like some of the worst batted ball luck of all time, literally. I think, I don't think teams are suddenly think he's an ace or anything like that. And I think they know who he is. He was on the free agent market a couple years ago. He got a deal pretty quickly that wasn't super big. So I don't think teams are going to be, tripping over themselves to get him. But he may still be the best arm available or one of the best 2 or 3 arms available. And so unless he just completely falls on his face over the next 6 weeks, I think there's still going to be a fair amount of trade value there. But again, it's kind of, closeted with you're getting 10, 12 starts out of him, maybe tops, and that's it. So Scope.
What happened?
It's the 10th inning. Eric Haas starts on second. Zach Short walks, and Scope strikes out on 4 pitches. Couldn't get the runners over. Couldn't get him in.
All right. On that note, we're gonna get out of here because it's extra innings, and this game has actually gone old school style. This is 7:40 start, right? So it's almost 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's an old fashioned game between these two. But we'll be back on Thursday to talk White Sox and Tigers. I may not be here because and Tyler, easy answer to that question. Tyler wants to know, is Scope the biggest disappointment in this team? Yes.
Just depends on if you thought you would get anything at all out of him because he didn't do anything last year.
What a crappy at bat, man. That was just like lounging there. Whatever. It is what it is. But thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. We'll be back Thursday. And go to TigersMLReport.com. There's 2 articles. One by Jerry, did a really good job with Eduardo Rodriguez. Can I talk? And the favorite stadiums, real quick. Tyler asked that question in the chat. I've been to more minor league stadiums at this point than major league stadiums. So I would say one of my favorites is Jackson Field in Lansing. That's I love that. I love the in-ground feel to it. I love that stadium. Major league wise, I went to Cleveland. Wasn't really anything that remember for. the old Comiskey Park 2 or Guaranteed Rate Field has some character to it, but it's showing its age. What just happened? Oh!
Single, but didn't score a run, I don't think, right?
Oh, I thought he hit a home run. That's just on the foul. So I would say Jackson Field's my favorite, and I would probably go in terms of Major League Stadium. I went to Chase Field in Arizona. That actually surprised me. That was actually a better experience than I thought. So
I like it there.
Yeah, I would go with that one. Out of all the ones, because again, I'm going to Pittsburgh at some point to go see PNC Park, which probably will end up being my new favorite. But I'm gonna have to say Chase.
Yeah, I've only been to 4 big league stadiums, I think, in my life. Tiger Stadium, Comerica, Wrigley Field, and Target Field, I think. I don't think I've been to another big league stadium. Of those, Wrigley's has its own magic. Target Field's pretty cool. It's fairly unique. It is one of those stadiums. It's kind of like Jackson Field, where it's built into a city block, so they cram everything in there.
I'll have to check that out.
That's the smallest footprint of any major league stadium, acreage wise.
And but I just have always, and this is far from original, but PNC Park just looks beautiful. It's got the best skyline in big league baseball. There's some other parks. I know the BYU field is amazing, and I think Charlotte has a cool look into downtown. But the PNC Park is just awesome looking, and I've never been there, so I don't know if the stadium itself, when you're there, feels cool. But that's a place I definitely want to visit.
For me, Kauffman Stadium is the best baseball road trip. It's a good stadium, but the town itself is just built for a fun weekend of baseball. So I always recommend that one. In terms of just really a pleasing place to sit and watch a ball game, I was at the stadium in Seattle, whatever they're calling it now. But do we know? I don't even know. But
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But it was beautiful. I mean, I was there on a rainy day where they put the canopy up, and it was gorgeous place to sit. And then, as Raj mentioned, I really do think Chase Field is underrated. I like sitting watching a ball game there. I've been there. I have relatives in Arizona. I've been to many games there, and it's a good time.
Hobby.
There we go. Nice. Just look down.
Boy, hobby.
Nice. Did you get a third?
3-run double.
Oh,
that's okay. It's okay.
Boom.
Yeah. What was
T-Mobile Park is on my list.
Yeah, T-Mobile. That's what it's called. Yeah.
I think with my new job, by the way, I get a chance to go out to Seattle, I believe.
Oh.
So I will. I'm gonna make a point to where I'm traveling in my next job to go to stadiums I haven't been to. So,
have you been to Seattle before?
No, I've not. I've not.
Oh, fun city.
I've been to Portland, and I've been to Los Angeles. I was going to a game at Dodger Stadium, but the situation was so. This was Dodgers Cardinals in 2014, I think it was, or the AL or the NLCS or something like that, or playoffs. But there was a long story short. Let me explain what happened. So I get off the subway, and there was a Cardinals fan waiting to. I forgot he was waiting for something to get. He was waiting at the train station there. Right by where there's like a port to LAX, and these Dodger fans were taunting him the whole time. And they were just getting on him, and just like, and I've heard if you sit in a certain section of Dodger Stadium without the certain colors, it can be interesting. And what is that? Ah, there it is. See? Hold on. Where's my breaking news sounder? Wait a minute.
What is that?
Hold on.
Sorry, the Tigers are promoting Great Weatherspoon to AAA. It's not a huge deal, but it was something we talked about earlier, like an hour ago. We mentioned it, right?
Yeah.
Wait.
Hold on. I got it. Wait a minute. There we go. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, come on. Dead air. Hold on.
Was Javi safe?
Was he safe?
They've challenged it. I think they're saying he was safe. No. Upheld. Not at third. This is neither here nor there, Raj, but I don't know if you saw the all the NFL teams were doing their schedule rollouts. They get super creative with their schedules. Did you see the Seattle one?
No.
Oh, I think you'd dig that.
I'll have to check it out after we get off the air. I'm trying to find a breaking news sound. I'm just gonna go what I saw originally. So there's a.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't. Look.
Dun, 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 dun.
No, it's this one sucks. Okay, you know what? That sucks.
It's the one from Nightline.
Oh, the Nightline. Ooh, that's a good one too. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun, dun. I like that.
But my bucket list, I've heard good things about watching a ball game in San Diego. So that's a really good stadium. And San Diego's a nice town, the gas lamp area.
Yeah. I'm going to go out watching it in San Diego. Watching the baseball. Yakety yak. Yeah.
Grant Witherspoon is in Toledo. There we go. All right.
Yeah. Friend of the Tigers Minor League Report podcast, Grant Witherspoon.
Yes.
Kid. I'm happy for him. He had a really good week. Was in AAA last year. Was kind of disappointed. He admitted to us about starting the year in AA this year. Not that he, doesn't like being there, but he, it's very natural to feel like you've taken a demotion when you're in AAA and they put you back in AA. So hopefully he can go up to Toledo and hit a little bit, and who knows, maybe he'll make his big league debut later this year. But good for him, and we assume there will be some corresponding move from West Michigan to Erie.
So that's why the trade makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well,
a choice. Whoa.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, Kauffman Stadium is also on my bucket list. Kauffman Stadium. Another one I really want to go to is Camden Yards. I want to really go back. I really want to go there. I had a chance to go and of course see a game at Fenway or Wrigley would be cool too. So, but on that note, yes, we're gonna get out of here. It is now. I'm gonna hopefully we'll catch the last bit of the Tigers winning the first game of the series. We'll be back on Thursday. Have a good week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
And yes, Tyler, I did see